all, I would now request Dr. Subramanian Swamy, the man of the year and the man of the decade, who single-handedly has done more for successfully exposing corruption than anyone else in recent memory, to please address us this morning. After all, it's not very often that we get a full Harvard tenure professor as our politician, and we should make the best of it. None other than Dr. Subramanian Swamy.
Basu, I hope I'm able to live up to the build-up you have given. I think you must be CIA to know all these details. हाँ करूँगा आप सवाल पूछिए हिंदी में मैं जवाब दूँगा but any adulterate भाषण तो मैं दे नहीं सकता. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Sucheta Dalal, who people had warned me is a financial terrorist, but then she only attacks those who are corrupt. For her second anniversary in this Moneylife Foundation. They're very active, she writes very well, written for a long time. And therefore she qualifies as a genuine intellectual, not the ones that you normally see who are always on the side of the government. I would like to divide my topic today in three parts. Why is 2G so important? 2, what are the ramifications or implications that flow out of 2G? And 3, what is it that we can do to see such things don't happen in the future? Today, we can boast of a very high rate of growth, leave aside the last 2 years. But we can also recognize the fact that our rank in the Transparency Index on corrupt nations has been falling steadily. And now out of 124 countries, our rank is 95. And we are just a little ahead of Pakistan. That's no satisfaction. And we are way below all others who are no better than us in economic development. We didn't have a reputation for being corrupt. 1600 years ago, Farsian came from China, and he recorded that the one thing that struck him about India was the people were so honest. He said people go out in the night without locking their houses, which he has not seen anywhere else. And he said if you by chance, by mistake, left anything behind on your travel, the people of India would hunt you down and give it back to you. And this is reaffirmed again by Yuan Chong, who came in 1100 AD. And then Vasco da Gama, Mark Twain, till about 300, 400 years ago. This was the general report of whoever visited India. Then suddenly, with the looting done during the East India Company period and the active promotion of bribery to get the public to comply, corruption began to take root in this country. And we expected in 1947, after we won the freedom struggle led by Mahatma Gandhi, who had the highest moral authority of all politicians of that century, that after 47 we would follow policies by which corruption would be minimized. But unfortunately, Mahatma Gandhi didn't remain. He was assassinated. Sardar Patel, another very strict disciplinarian, died in 1950. And Jawaharlal Nehru, while personally perhaps honest, had a tolerant view to colleagues who supported him but were corrupt. Krishna Menon, K.D. Malaviya, Rafi Ahmed Kidwai, a number of them were known to be corrupt, but Nehru, because they supported him, defended them. And Krishna Menon was the most outrageous example of that. But more than that, one of the worst things that happened to us after 47 was the adoption of the Soviet economic model. This economic model brought into existence what is called as a quota license Raj, where licenses were at high premium and a new group of people came, they were the touts, who could get you licenses. And sometimes if you get the license, you could sell it in the black market and make more profit than if you were actually use that license. And the license quota Raj laid the foundation for our corruption. And this went on, increasing as time went by. And after economic reform, I would have assumed that this corruption would go down. But a cultural change has taken place with globalization, which has now planted the seed of greed in all of us. And much of our problems today in corruption arises out of greed, that money can buy everything. This is not our tradition, because our tradition, in fact, symbolized by Mahatma Gandhi, and was brought home to me when I first went as a student to get my PhD at Harvard. And my American colleagues said to me, "How is it that you people of India followed Mahatma Gandhi?" So I said, "Why? What's wrong with that?" So one of the American students told me, "Because he's not even properly dressed. How can you follow a leader who's not properly dressed?" I said, "What about your country?" So he said, "In our country, if a leader is not properly dressed, with a tie and coat and shining shoes, then we will not follow him. If Mahatma Gandhi came to America and tried to lead us, we probably put him in jail for indecent exposure. That is how our cultural habits are." And that made me think, how is it that we all followed a person who was as simply dressed, as minimally dressed as Mahatma Gandhi? We look at our spiritual leaders also, they are very simply dressed. Look at the spiritual leaders of other religions in, say, Italy or Vatican. You will see what pomp and glory they are dressed in. So therefore, somewhere our society was structured on the concept of sacrifice. And therefore, this sacrifice meant giving up, and that was extolled. I don't find any other society which has that. And in fact, today, increasingly you find a large number of adherents to our sadhus and Swamijis. You take Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram, how many foreigners flocked there? Or Sai Baba's, when he was there. Or any of the other sadhus. In America, you find whichever sadhu has gone from here is able to establish a huge following. Baba Ramdev, for instance, has got a huge following abroad. Even I, whose name is Swami, I am a bogus Swami, not a real one. When people don't know my background, they think that I am a Swamiji, so they phone me up while I'm in America to ask me whether I can teach them how to get mental peace. Recently, there was a very famous actress in Hollywood called Julia Roberts. And she came to Haryana to do some shooting. And then some of her people in the company took her to meet a sannyasi in an ashram. And then the sannyasi asked her, "What is wrong with you?" So she said, "I have made billions of dollars, but I am not happy and I am not able to understand why." And that led to 2 weeks in that ashram where she learned so many things, including pranayam and yoga, and how to be non-attached, how money was not everything, and how our society was structured on the principle that money was not the decider of social status. For example, the old Hindu society was built on this Varna system, which is now degenerated because it's got linked with birth. But originally you found that those who were most venerated were the scholars, and they didn't have any weapons or wealth or land. And the people who had weapons had to take advice from them and act according to their advice, which was not the same thing in Europe, where people with weapons became kings and they would decide everything. So this society was structured on the basis that money will not decide your social status. Unfortunately, that's what we have lost or losing. And consequently, we have not lost it because there's no other explanation for Anna Hazare's popularity in our country except that old value, that person of sacrifice should be venerated. Otherwise, today Anna Hazare would not have been. So, if somebody says, why is it that after economic reform we are still increasing corruption? It is because of this factor, that it is now becoming more and more materialistic society. Our ancient values were that there should be a balance between spiritual values and material progress. And that is now becoming, instead of a two-dimensional approach or a blend of two values, now we are becoming more and more materialistic. And I find this amongst all. I went recently to IIM Bangalore to teach students, give a lecture to students, and I asked the class, after all this stiff competitive exam you are coming here, what for? What is it that attracts you to this MBA course? And 99% of the class, there was only one exception in a class of almost 100, 99% said, because once we get an MBA, we'll get a good job. And probably we'll also get a good bride. That is what the boys said. Now, I said, you mean theory of marketing or theory of finance and these things do not appeal to you so much? No, that is all right, but only if you get MBA are we assured of a job. Now that shows the new attitude that everything is being measured on how much you can earn and how well off you are and how quickly you became well off. And this is the foundation of corruption, I want to tell you, which is propelling our country today increasingly, and this is what we have to stem if we want a long-run solution. Now, 2G is a very, it's really a phenomenon because its ramifications are enormous. What is 2G? Many people ask me. Somebody asked Manmohan Singh and he said, Sonia ji and Rahul ji. That's all he needs to know. He doesn't need to know anything else. But basically, 2G means it's G stands for generation. So it's a second generation of what? The first generation was when the cordless phone came. You could make a call, and without a wire, the person you called would pick up the phone. You'll hear the ring, and you'll pick up the phone. You could have a telephone conversation. Then came 2G with mobile phones, where you would be able not only to make a telephone call, but send SMS, email, even pictures. Now, what is the difference between these two? Well, in the 1G, the waves, the sound waves that go, they go in cycles, but long cycles. 2G, there's more information going, so the cycles are more. 3G, you make a phone call, the other side picks it up, you can see that person, you can see a video of that person on your telephone. And therefore the cycles are even more. 4G, there will be even more information to send, large documents that can be sent. So, G is generation. In generation in Hindi it will be called PD. Pehla PD, Dusra PD, Tisra PD, like that. And this is what distinguishes them, and these have to go through the sky, and you have to make sure that you don't collide with other waves. So therefore you have to partition the sky, and that partitioning, if I may simplify it, is spectrum, and that is not unlimited, so it has to be sold as a scarce resource. But what happened in the 2G matter is that it was not sold at the highest price. It was in fact arbitrarily decided to sell it at 2001 price. 2001 price was at a time when we had only 4 million mobile sets. In 2008, we had 700 million mobile sets. So the market had become huge, and there were a flood of applications. And Mr. Raja, who was the telecom minister, used all his methods to ensure that his favorites at least got the license. In the end, 9 got it, and 2 of them were his favorites. And these were favorites, the Swan Telecom and the Unitech. Both were real estate companies. They had nothing in telecom whatsoever. Not a single tower, no equipment, nothing, no background. They are pure real estate companies. And by all his fiddling around with this so-called first come first serve policy, he ensured that they were able to get the 2 licenses. And 7 others got it. Tata got it, Vodafone got it, so many others got it. But of all these got 9 at 2001 price. Had we auctioned in 2008, we would have probably got 10 times the price. Now there is a lot of controversy on that, because the CAG says had we auctioned it, we would have got 1,76,000 crores more. Now this has been rubbished by a lot of Congress politicians. Kapil Sibal said that no, the loss is 0. And people criticize him. So why blame him? He can't count beyond 0. So that is his level of education. And you see now, he may have been a lawyer, but he has forgotten everything in this fit of sycophancy. He has forgotten everything. Now the Supreme Court has said, in a landmark judgment cancelling all licenses, that a huge loss, perhaps in the range of the CAG estimate, has been incurred, and this is unbearable, and therefore we must not only cancel it, but you must auction it. And if you auctioned it and you got anywhere near 1,76,000 crores, actually what we got was only 14,000 crores as revenue, because 1,650 crores you multiply by 9 companies, you get about 15,000 crores. And this 15,000 crores is clearly an underestimate, because at least the Swan and Unitech sold it afterwards. Sold the company, the controlling interest of the company, to 2 foreign companies, Etisalat and Telenor, at 8 times the price. So therefore, if you just take that particular part, that 8 times if they could sell, then India, government of India could have also sold it at 8 times. 8 into 15 automatically will give you 140 crores, right? No, 120 crores. And then you add the CDA, MA and all that, you'll come very close to 1,76,000. And if you put it at 10 times, you'll get even more, because Tata sold to Docomo at 13 times the price. And Estel sold to a Russian company at 20 times the price. So, because these companies had already telecom equipment and so on, whereas Swan and Unitech had nothing with them. So therefore 8 times is about the maximum that could be given. And so government definitely lost revenue. And this was because of the price fixed at that low level. And subsequently, Raja also changed the rules of the telecom by saying that even before rolling out your services, you can sell the controlling interests by share dilution to foreign companies. in the name of FDI. Now, for a long time, people thought this is all Raja's work alone. And one day was listening to television, and I found that the Prime Minister was speaking in Rajya Sabha on 24th to 2011, excuse me. And he was saying that somebody was attacking him for fixing such a low price. He said, what could I do? Under a NDA government cabinet resolution, 2 ministers were authorized to decide on behalf of the cabinet. One is the finance minister and the other is the telecom minister. And these 2 were completely empowered to decide the price and only report to me. And therefore, Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Raja together decided the price and came and informed me on 4th July 2008. That is the first time I realized there was another player in that. And that was Mr. Chidambaram. But he being a lawyer, and crooked lawyers are the most dangerous people in this world, who know how to get around and create alibis for themselves, his name had not figured anywhere. So then I started hunting for documents. And I found that these documents were not easily available. Most of the time when I filed RTI applications, they said, a note is not traceable. Fortunately, I found out that at least some of the documents were in the CBI file, which the CBI had confiscated, but the CBI won't give it to me, so I went to court and got an order and got the CBI file. Today, you will read in the newspapers that Mr. Chidambaram, the court has freed him from being made a co-accused. This is a wrong judgment. And when I read the judgment, I was surprised what had happened, because the first 60 paragraphs of the judgment are all in my favor, and then the last 3 paragraphs are all in favor of Chidambaram. So something fishy has happened. But I found in the judgment, the judge acknowledges, yes, Dr. Swamy has proved that the price was decided, and the share dilution was also decided by Chidambaram and Mr. Raja. And while Mr. Raja charges have been framed on him for these 2 things, the judge concludes that just because Mr. Chidambaram decided with Mr. Raja doesn't mean that he is also participated in the criminality unless proved otherwise. That means I and somebody else participate in a murder. I give the murderer a knife and say, kill him. And then later on you say, all he did was pass the knife and that's all. There's no criminal liability. I think first of all the judge got it wrong, and I'm surprised he got it wrong. He's a very good judge. It must be for God knows what reason. I'm at least not going to speculate in public on what the reason is, even if I know privately what the reason is. The issue is this, that the whole idea of summoning Mr. Chidambaram was to ask him on the witness box or as an accused or through his lawyers, why did you agree to the price of 2001? The whole establishment of a criminality will come in the trial. In the summoning stage, I have to only show that there exists a doubt. And that Supreme Court judgments have said a number of places that you don't have to prove the case that a person is guilty. I had gone to the Delhi High Court, they dismissed it also. And then I went to Supreme Court and I got a wonderful order. So in our judicial system, we have a 3-layered system, and it's allowed because judges are human beings, they can make mistakes. So consequently, I can tell you today that it is Mr. Chidambaram and Mr. Raja who together decided that the price of spectrum should be at 2001, and within the next 2-3 months, I will prove it in the Supreme Court. Because if this judgment remains, then tomorrow Raja will come and say that Mr. Chidambaram is not criminally liable, I am also not criminally liable. Because I only listen to his advice, and that comes out in the file also. Mr. Chidambaram was the Bada Ustad, and Raja was the Chota Ustad, you see. And he recorded that. Mr. Chidambaram told me like this. Mr. Chidambaram, the finance minister, told me like this. So what has happened is that we have lost at least 1,76,000 crores. It could be more if you take the market price, prevailing market price to be more. And with that money, you could have had, at least for the next 25 years, a zero tax, income tax. This country needs a zero income tax situation, without which we will not be able to fight black money. And I would suggest that if any government comes, it should have the courage to abolish income tax and send the CRP to put a lock on the income tax department and ask all the officers to go and do rural electrification or something like that. Nothing has promoted corruption, black money as much as these taxes. And poor tax, who pays taxes? The rich don't pay taxes because they got chartered accountants to help them. And the poor don't have enough money to pay taxes. So it's the middle class, it's the salaried class, it's the professional class who pay the taxes. And I don't see why they should pay taxes, because from indirect tax you get, even today, almost 88% of the total tax revenue. So therefore, I would say that if you could have got this money, even today because of the Supreme Court judgment, cancelling licenses, automatically what happens, all these bank guarantees are called for. And the initial fee of 1650 crores paid by each of these 9 operators, that is 15,000 crores, becomes part of the government revenue today. So government revenue will be already increased by 20,000 crores by just a simple Supreme Court order. And if you manage to auction it, you will definitely get at least 1,76,000. And that means not only you don't have to pay taxes, but all your infrastructure projects, all your power projects, all of them can be financed by this money. Can we get it back? Of course we can get it back. Why only 1,76,000 crores? In foreign bank accounts, we have today 70 lakh crore rupees, almost 40% of our GDP, in foreign bank accounts. And these foreign bank accounts, you can get it back nowadays by a variety of methods. Some governments are willing to help us because of this terrorist financing. Many governments are ready to help us. Now, what is the technique? Now, for instance, the German government found that in Liechtenstein, neighboring country, they have a secret banking system there, and they found through their intelligence that their German officials are having accounts there. So what happened? The German government asked the Liechtenstein government, kindly give us the accounts of all our officials. We know they are officials, German nationals who have got accounts. So Liechtenstein said, no, nothing doing. This is our business. We'll be finished if we start violating secrecy. So the German government paid a bribe of $450 million to the most senior officer of the Liechtenstein bank and got all the accounts of every secret account on a CD given to them. They took that CD, downloaded it, and found there were 24 countries which officials had secret bank accounts. And so they wrote to all 24 that I've got this account. Do you want it? 23 countries wrote back saying, please send it immediately. One country did not write. That was India. So we had to go to the Supreme Court, get an order. And even today, although the Supreme Court has been given the order, they're saying, no, you can't release it. It will violate this and violate that. We will get it very soon. The French government got 788 Indian names in the Hong Kong Shanghai Bank by the same method. They bribed the officials. And they didn't wait for asking whether India would want it. They just sent the list to India. Now what names they are, that also government says, no, 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 we can't release it. But I am very suspicious. Maybe there are some important names there because unexpectedly the French have been able to sell their Rafale plane to India for 50,000 crores. Because it was not in the list. It was not top of the list and suddenly it emerged in top of the list. So there is no shortage of wealth of our country which is abroad. So I come back to this question. What is the implication of this 1,76,000 crores being pumped into our economic system? This was of course shared by many people. All of them have not yet come in the public eye, but they will. I'm not going to let go. And I would say what we have to understand is why is this so important to fight corruption? What happens when you have engaged in a corrupt act? And I'm now talking of a public official who engages in a public act of corruption, or I mean misuses a public position to commit corruption. Supposing there's a minister and he issues a tender, he rigs the tender so that a particular person gets the tender or qualifies for the tender, and then for a building of a road, say. And that person who gets the tender awarded, he gives a bribe to the minister. And after that, he then, instead of putting, in the construction of the road, instead of putting stones and rocks, he puts mud. And that one monsoon comes and that road is finished. So corruption leads you to get substandard products. It is below merit. You don't get the most meritorious project, doesn't get the money. And you suffer because of that. In every field, whether it's adulteration of medicines or adulteration of foods, everywhere it is this pressure of corruption which is doing it. Second thing is that this money is often used for in places where cash is a method of transaction. For instance, today the government has permitted forward trading in food grains, in agricultural products. And what we find is that people with a lot of black money go now to the wholesale market, buy vegetables, buy rice, they buy oil seeds, all this, and then put them in a cold storage or a go down. And then when the prices shoot up, then they bring out these, and after that prices come down, but they have earned their profit. Today the prices are down because of that reason that the go downs have been opened, the cold storages have been opened. So inflation today in India is only because of corruption, in my opinion.